What's your emergency?
Welcome back to That Wee Wee Show, a podcast where we watch and discuss episodes of the ABC show 911. I'm Ellen.
I'm Alice.
And I'm Bex.
Thanks to everyone who's listened to our first episode of this season. We're in season 2. It's very exciting. We met Eddie and everything is great so far. But we also have to say a big thank you to people who responded on Twitter to us, to our last episode. Especially, I wanted to especially shout out a comment from Lyra. Thank you for responding to our Twitter post and saying that it was so nice to see Bobby in a better mood, like more at ease than he had been in the first season. And I think we kind of mentioned that in the last episode a little bit, that he was happy because, he'd obviously he's hooked up with Athena and he's happy. But yeah, he's almost like a different guy in this beginning of this season. But anyway, we can get into that a bit more later on. Before we get into this second episode, let's find out what happened last time on 911.
Yeah, so last week on 911, pressure burst around the city as we met Buck's sister Maddie, who has joined him in LA to escape her abusive marriage, and also his new love interest, Eddie, an army veteran who struggles to get dressed. Oh, and Athena and Bobby are banging.
This week's episode is the part 2 of the 2-part season premiere to season 2. This one is entitled 7.1 and it aired September 24th, which was the day after the first episode of the season. And the official summary that Fox released for this one says, when a massive earthquake rocks Los Angeles, the first responders rush to rescue victims from a crumbling high-rise hotel, both under the rubble and high above the ground. Athena must deal with wreckage from a collapsed freeway overpass, and Maddie is thrown into the fire as she faces her first crisis as a 911 dispatcher. And if anyone wants to know what they're getting themselves into with this episode, your content warnings are that there is going to be an earthquake. And there are going to be injuries and fatalities that go along with the earthquake and the aftershocks, including a crushed limb, a man trapped in a burning car, and a wannabe Harvey Weinstein who gets what's coming to him.
Thank God.
He does, yeah.
So we left the first episode of the season with the earthquake. I think the very last shot of the episode was Athena standing on the overpass of the 710 that had literally disappeared right in front of her. Yeah. This episode, however, there's no sign of the earthquake.
Yeah, it does start before the earthquake, right?
We're doing that weird thing where we're jumping around in time.
Love it when they do that.
But they're not telling us how far we've jumped. We're just at some point in the past, I guess.
Yeah, like nothing's damaged and nothing's shaking yet.
And everybody's happy.
Yeah, they are happy, aren't they? They do like a very... I didn't really notice how much of it was one shot, but they sort of pan around in the foyer of this high-rise hotel in the middle of LA.
It was a lot of cutting backwards and forwards, but I think the intention was that it would have been nice if it could have been one shot, but
there was a lot of dialogue, I think, a lot of speaking kind of. It would have been difficult to get it all in one shot.
Imagine how long it would have taken them to do all in one shot. And they're like, this is a network weekly television. They're very limited time on sets. They got to crank these out fast.
And with all the different moving parts,
Yes.
So they do pan around and, cut around, I guess, and meet all of the people who are going to be involved with all of the emergencies in the hotel in this episode. So we've got a family who are arriving at the hotel to stay, sightseeing to base their sightseeing trip. We have a lady who is like credited as entitled woman, and she has a cute little dog.
So many of these characters don't have names. They're just like, we've got dad and mum and entitled woman.
Yeah.
The dog gets a name.
I love that the dog
doesn't.
gets a name.
What is the dog's name? I've forgotten.
Paisley.
Paisley.
That's right.
We also have a high school basketball team and their coach who have been in Los Angeles for a championship and were knocked out in the first round. So they're obviously not that good.
Yeah, but now they get to eat all the pancakes they want. So, I mean, that's a win.
And our fourth contestant is Ali, who is a businesswoman who is hanging out in the lobby waiting for a meeting.
Mm-hmm. So before we get to any earthquakey stuff, we have to set up each of those groups of people, what they're doing before the earthquake hits.
Yes, we have to establish the emotional connection
Yes.
so that we feel for them when they are inevitably
right.
placed in peril.
Yeah, there's a lot jam-packed into this section before the title card.
Yeah.
Yeah, a lot of moving parts, a lot of characters. We get a lot of names. Only one of the the basketballers gets named, which is Pickens.
Even the coach doesn't get a name. He's just called...
No, coach is just coach.
Coach is just coach. Yeah. Nobody in the family gets a name except for the little girl who's Kat.
Uh-huh.
Ali gets a name, but I don't think her boss does.
Her boss gets a name if you look him up on IMDb, but nowhere in the episode does he actually have a name.
Yeah, it's never
used.
mentioned.
Yeah.
But yeah, so the entitled woman she's going in and she's got this little dog, and she says by denying her entry, it's a violation of federal law because the dog's an emotional support dog, which isn't
No.
actually a thing.
Dogs that can help calm panic attacks absolutely are a thing.
Yeah.
That they are trained service animals.
Yes, trained service animals, absolutely a thing, and they wouldn't be being carried and barking.
Yeah, a little Shih Tzu that you're carrying in your arms that is barking at everything that's going on is not a trained service animal. That is a pet, and the hotel is 100% within its rights to deny the pet entry.
So she's literally got a certificate online so that she can take this little prissy dog everywhere. Yeah, meanwhile, the minivan family, they're clearly on holiday because they were talking about Disneyland and that sort of stuff. There's a mother, a father, a teenage son, and a young girl, and their room's not ready, so they're like, okay, we'll just go up to the restaurant, which is also where the basketball team have gone to eat all the pancakes. And that's when they pass Ali, who's all businessy, and she just gets a text saying, you can tell she's there for work, but the text just says, stuck on a call, just come up, room 1101. And she looks so exasperated.
But she grabs her business portfolio that she had resting by the chair next to her and heads up to the 11th floor, where she is met by the person that she is having the business meeting with. Now at this point, Ali is dressed very professionally. She's in a nice tailored suit. She's in a silk-looking blouse. She looks very put together. Her meeting partner is in a dressing gown and an undershirt.
Just quickly.
And that's it.
Because I know that this was a point of contention. A dressing gown is a bathrobe for all our American followers.
He's not wearing any clothing.
Yeah.
He's severely underdressed for a business meeting.
He's just in a bathrobe. And when he sits on the couch, he immediately just spreads his legs. So he's just wearing underwear.
And I hate that he sits down and spreads, and my eyes immediately go to the V between his legs to try and work out if he's actually wearing underwear or not.
Yeah.
It's
so sleazy.
Yeah.
I love that we were sharing our notes the other day as we were compiling them, and Alice, you had him as gross sleazy guy, and I had him as pervert all through the notes. Anyway, so gross sleazy pervert guy starts waffling on about how important he is, how busy he is, how much money he's making, and invites Ali to show him what she's got, which is just a really, really gross way to kick off the meeting. And Ali kind of braces herself, goes over and starts pulling out all of these drawings. It's some kind of architect presentation,
it's
I
like
think.
a set of townhouses or something.
Yeah.
Well, gross sleazy pervert dude probably has no idea either because his eyes are firmly on her ass.
Mm-hmm.
And, like, the noises he makes while he's looking at, or apparently looking at the mock-ups are gross.
Yeah. We find out that he is married because his phone starts ringing and Ali asks, should you get that? And he says, no, it's just my wife. So already his, the bar is plummeted even lower than it already was.
Yeah, like, we firmly hate this guy. Everyone's just yeah. Everyone wants him to die.
And he hasn't even shown his full colours yet.
Literally.
It doesn't take him long though because he kind of shuffles a little bit closer to Ali on the couch. She's sitting right on the edge, her body firmly turned away from him. He's turned toward her, arm across the back of the couch. He says to her, would you like coffee? She's like, no. Would you like a mimosa? It's early in the morning, but okay, no. Would you like a mimosa in the shower? And his hand creeps up her inner thigh, and there we go.
Yeah.
The red flags are flying.
And
there's a whole fucking parade.
She just gets up and goes, what the hell?
Yeah, like, she cracks it as she should.
Yeah.
And he's like, no, you're really blowing things out of proportion. And she's like, there is no proportional response to being asked to shower with your boss. But when she threatens to report him to HR and the board, because they're a publicly traded company, which I'm not sure if that has to do with sexual harassment. You shouldn't be sexually harassed whether or not it's a publicly traded company, Ali. But he just goes, HR's terrified of me, and I handpicked every member of the board, so they'll destroy you. So yeah, he's literally blackmailing her into not saying anything.
Yeah. We do have to go back down to the restaurant just quickly.
Yeah, back downstairs.
Because while all this has been happening up on the 11th floor, the basketball dude bros are destroying the breakfast buffet. Kat and her family have found a table and are eating their breakfast, but Kat needs to go to the bathroom. And apparently she's all about being independent, so she gets up to go by herself. And as she's walking towards the bathroom, she passes the entitled woman who is complaining about her eggs being glutened. And now she can't eat them.
They're touching her toast.
Yeah.
Which, as somebody who, cannot eat gluten, you tell them that shit before you order your food.
But also it's a buffet, so I don't know why she's ordering food.
I don't think she was going for the buffet. I think she was ordering a la carte.
Yeah. Apparently the dog is also gluten intolerant.
But as Kat walks past, Paisley jumps off the couch and runs.
Yeah, because of course she's not on a leash.
Which I think, yeah.
Leash your fucking pets, people.
I mean, the fucking pet should not be in the restaurant in the first place.
Yeah,
but,
that too.
The entitled lady says that the waiter has upset Paisley by glutening her food, but I think this is Paisley runs and hides under the corner of the bar, and I think this is meant to be that thing where animals can sense when something bad is going to happen. Because no sooner than Kat crawls under the bar to try and get Paisley out than the earthquake strikes. And the entire room starts to shake.
We first get a very, cliche shot of a close-up of a glass of water.
Oh, yeah.
That's right.
Which is great. It's like, oh, how do we show that there's an earthquake? Got it. Glass of water.
How do we show that there's a T-Rex coming?
Yeah, that's it.
Yeah,
exactly.
It's very Jurassic Park.
Oh, man. That would have been a different episode.
Hey, we're only at season 2. We've still got time.
Just give them time.
So we get the very, very great water shaking in a glass, and the earthquake starts.
Yeah.
Good guy dad gets up to immediately go find the daughter. That's his first thought, which is great. And the entire hotel is shaking. We've got people screaming. We've got cutlery and plates going flying.
Yeah, everything falls off the shelves and smashes on the ground.
Yeah, it's very chaotic. Everyone's running everywhere. Dad's trying to get to Kat, but like there's people running literally everywhere, so it's a struggle for him to get there. And when he finally gets to her, the floor falls out from underneath, so he's sort of like thrown sideways. And while that's happening, we go back up to Ali and the sleazebag, and the whole room that they're in shifts sideways.
It's like Leaning Tower of Pisa.
Sliding
It was
around.
perfectly vertical, and then suddenly it just starts to tip to the side.
Yeah. So Ali
So
manages to
scary.
grab a pillar, but the sleazebag gets knocked into the window and is trapped there, like he can't move.
Yeah, because all of the furniture that's succumbing to the pull of gravity as the building is tipping sideways is just slamming against him, pinning him to that window.
Yeah, couldn't happen to a nicer guy.
Yeah.
So we go back downstairs and the ceiling collapses, which traps the coach and Pickens.
Yes, because when the earthquake hit, I don't know what happened to the other Dude Bro basketballers, but Pickens was running around trying to help people, pulling them out of the way.
Yeah, good guy Pickens.
Well, he has to be the good guy.
That's it.
We're not going to root for him if we don't like him. A la sleaze guy up on the 11th floor.
Yeah. So yeah, the ceiling collapses and they're trapped. The dust starts to clear and the dads manage to hold on to the side of where the floors collapsed. And he sort of crawls his way over to where Cat and the dog were, but there's a big
they're
hole in the
gone.
floor
Yeah.
and they're gone.
Yeah.
So then we get this huge like zoom out of the hotel, and a big part, like a third of the hotel, has just peeled itself away and is hanging over the street at like a 25-degree angle.
It does look like someone has just got a knife and has just sliced down
Yeah, I know.
the edge. And so the one part of it's perfectly standing still and the other part's just...
But like, I think I worked out why, because I was looking at it before and after kind of screenshots kind of thing, going, why would it just peel away like that? But I think part of the reason why it looked so weird to me is that there are no other buildings that have got damaged or have fallen down around it. It's just this one building.
It's very interesting that that hotel is the only one in that block that has suffered any structural damage.
Yeah, like they show more later, but in this,
Yeah, I mean, that it could happen.
yeah, like in this like pan away, it's just that like the cars are all still like driving down the street.
Yes.
Yeah. I mean, I think that in a normal earthquake, like a lesser earthquake, damage could happen to one building, fine. But in a 7.1 magnitude earthquake, which is apparently the largest in LA in 20 years, I feel like there would be more stuff
Much more.
damaged and
Yeah.
cracks in the
Yes.
ground.
And they
and
do
stuff.
show more
Yes.
later.
Anyway.
It's just that in this one shot, it's just that building and it looks so weird.
Yeah, yeah. Anyway, we finally get the title card. It took us a while to get there again in this episode, but then we do another time jump because apparently while they were showing the hotel earthquake stuff, we now have to go and set up what's happening to the 118 as well.
Although why they couldn't have told us the time, like given us a time reference for the hotel stuff.
Well, it was like right before the
It was pretty
earthquake,
quick,
so-
yeah.
But anyway, we're at school. We're with Eddie. Eddie's walking next to a boy who has some crutches that he's using to walk, and he's calling him Dad. So Eddie's a dad, which I already knew, but now I know for sure.
And it's teeny tiny baby Christopher,
This is Christopher.
who's like 7, but he's still a baby.
Yeah.
He's such a baby. So I think it's going to be a while before we get a decent Christopher episode. So I'm going to do a little bit of an info dump for you about Christopher.
Okay.
So Christopher is played by Gavin McHugh, who has cerebral palsy.
Right.
So that means that Christopher also has cerebral palsy. And I did a little bit of a deep dive to see if I could work out which came first, Gavin or Christopher. And it turns out that Christopher was always intended to have a disability. the casting was specifically for child actors with a disability. They didn't specify what the disability was, but everybody loved Gavin when he auditioned. This is his first TV role.
He's so cute.
So when he got cast as Christopher, immediately Christopher then had cerebral palsy.
Yeah.
But I love that with this scene with Eddie walking Chris to school, nothing is said about Chris having CP. The only reason that you would suspect that there is something different about Chris is that he's using the crutches. There's nothing in the dialogue where they're talking about it. If you didn't see the scene, if you just read the script of what was happening, you would just think it's a dad walking his kid to school.
Yeah.
There's no kind of overt or explicit mention of Chris having a disability. And I think we mentioned in the last season about how 911 does a really good job with just low-level disability rep. It's just people are in episodes with disabilities and it doesn't get made a big deal out of it. And that very definitely goes for Christopher. He is disabled. There are storylines that are going to come up that talk about his disability, but it's not a big deal. It's just this is who Chris is.
I'd seen like a fair bit of 911 before I actually watched it. Like, I knew that Eddie had a son. I knew that his name was Christopher. Like, I knew some of the storylines going in. I had no idea he had CP. And then the first episode, I was like, oh, I had no idea. Because, yeah, his storylines don't revolve around that. Like, there's so much of his character.
Like, Eddie doesn't have a son who doesn't have a disabled son. It's not this, like, big, oh, I have a disabled son, the way some parents are all about their kids' disabilities. It's just, this is Christopher, he's my son. Oh, by the way, he needs to use crutches because he's got CP.
Yeah, but yeah, love Christopher. He's so cute. He's doing just the classic kid thing as well.
Oh, I love this.
Like, the first thing he says is, hey, Dad, do you think dogs know they're dogs? And Eddie's like, what do you mean? He goes, well, like, I'm a person. Do dogs know that they're dogs and that we're people? Or do they think we're less hairier, smarter dogs that walk funny?
It's just such a classic kid thing.
And Eddie's just like, what the fuck is wrong with this child?
He's like, okay, kid, go to school. Yeah.
Which, can I just say, he sent Christopher off to school without a backpack.
Oh.
Christopher
Because they make a big deal of him watching Christopher walk into the school and all the other kids have got backpacks on and Chris does not have a bag.
Christopher doesn't need a backpack, clearly.
Christopher doesn't need to eat.
He doesn't need to eat. He needs no school supplies, no books.
No medications.
No,
okay.
no, nothing. It's fine, I'm sure they've got a canteen.
Maybe they have school lunches.
I still think he should have a backpack.
He definitely has a backpack in later episodes too.
He does. I guess they needed the shot of him walking away unencumbered by a backpack. I don't know.
But yeah, Eddie looks a bit nervous as Christopher goes in. So, like,
yeah,
you know, we did learn last time that Eddie is relatively new to the city.
Maybe it's Chris's first day.
Like, yeah, I got the impression that it was his first day, but then I was like, well, wouldn't he walk him all the way in if it was his first? Like, I don't know. Maybe it's not the first day, but an early.
Eddie also had to pass his exams and like his firefighting exams. So like whether or not he did that in LA or.
That's a good point. When did Chris come to LA? Yeah.
Right? Who knows?
Oh, good lord. Okay. I'm not going to think about that, otherwise I'm going to get angry. So we've soft launched Christopher, we've soft launched Eddie as a father, not just a daddy. Let's head to the
Yep.
Let's head back to the 118 to see what everyone else is up to.
They're eating.
Cap's making omelets.
Yeah. And Jim asks him if he ever feels like he's missed his calling because he's like he thinks he should be a TV chef.
Yeah, I love this exchange. And, like, Chim's like, because this is performance art, watching you cooking. And Hen just says it's because they never get to taste anything, because by the time it hits the table, the bell goes off. And I'm just like, yes, thank you for being self-aware.
But this time they do get to eat.
Yeah, they eat a fair bit.
They do.
Need their energy
I
for
do-
the earthquake
I
later.
do like that Hen is eating Chim's food, though. She's not waiting for Bobby to finish with whatever he's cooking. Chim's got food on his plate, so she's going to help herself to that, and
didn't
Chim
notice
seems
that.
quite happy to let her.
Yeah, he didn't make a
You didn't
fuss,
notice
so
that?
whatever. It probably
No.
That's probably how it happens. They all have to eat from one plate because they never get to eat their own food.
Bobby's making a little bit of small talk, and he says, "Speed round. If you weren't being a firefighter, what would you be doing?" Chim doesn't hesitate. He's just like, "Fighter pilot, Top Gun, call sign, Shogun." He's had that. He's been thinking about that.
Yeah,
definitely
he's
had that for
had
a
this
while.
loaded. I do just want to note that, so Bobby's cooking. Hen and Chim are the only ones in the kitchen. Like, they're eating at the counter. Like, there's like an island counter.
Yes.
But in the background, we can see the bigger table where they all, like, usually sit down to eat dinner and never actually eat. And there's 2 men and a woman on the table. And then you can see the couches with the TV, and there's at least 5 other, like, unnamed members of the 118 behind as well.
So they are
Yeah.
allowed up there.
Yeah, you
They're
actually
allowed
see them.
up there. They're not allowed to eat, though.
No,
They're not
Bobby's
allowed to eat, and they're
cooking
not,
for them.
clearly not allowed in the kitchen because
Jeez.
They have to wait for Bobby and the A shift to finish, and then they're allowed to have access to the kitchen.
They have to sit there and smell the omelets made by the TV chef.
And the TV's not on, though. That's the thing that really got me, was they're all lounging around on these couches. The TV's not on. What are they doing?
They're waiting for their turn in the kitchen, I guess.
yeah, they're waiting. They're waiting to get the scraps. It's like the ends of the chives and what like the stale eggs. Yeah. So Chim wants to be a fighter pilot. Hen says editorial cartoonist for the New Yorker, and like they all
Both
look.
men just give her the weirdest look.
Yeah, Bobby's like, "Can you draw?" And Hen says she has a lot to say and it isn't supposed to be attainable. And then points to Chim and says, "Top Gun, you can barely drive, you rebar head."
And this is when Buck enters the conversation, and Chim wants to know, if he wasn't a member of the LAFD, what would he be doing? And Buck just goes, "I'm not getting fired, am I?"
Yeah, that's his
Looks over at Bobby
first
very
thought.
worriedly.
Wouldn't be the first time.
Bobby doesn't even give him like a reassuring glance either. He's like, maybe. Chim's like, yeah, that's inevitable, but you know.
Aw.
Poor Buck. And then Hen's answer is that he would be a golden retriever.
Is that a
probably decent.
demotion or a promotion from being the
Dalmatian.
Dalmatian?
Either way, he's both of those things.
Yeah.
Yes. But they go backwards and forwards between themselves trying to work out what Buck's perfect job would be, starting from bartender and working their way through bouncer and ending up at bouncer at a strip club, which they're pretty pleased with themselves about, and they high-five. Me, having watched the entire season a couple of times, I'm just like here laughing at them.
Right.
'Cause
And yeah, Buck's not even like giving them answers. Like normally Buck would be like, hey, like, yeah, I'd do this.
yeah, he's not paying them any attention. He looks a little bit preoccupied.
Yeah, he's preoccupied, he's frazzled. Bobby asks what's going on with him, and Buck immediately just starts complaining about the LA traffic. So yeah, he says it took him almost 2 hours to get from Abby's place to the dispatch center, then to the firehouse.
Can I just note that even Buck is still calling it Abby's
That
place?
was-
I know we
yes.
had the discussion last week about, are we calling it Buck's place? We're calling it Abby's
Yeah,
place?
he's
Yeah.
still
Yeah,
calling it
Buck's
Abby's
still-
place.
Yeah.
Like he's not even calling it
yet.
home. Yeah.
It's not
Nope,
home.
it's still Abby's.
Or my place, it's just Abby's place.
It's Abby's place.
But yeah, he said Maddie's going to have to start Ubering because it took him 2 hours to get all the way there and back. And so Bobby asks how she's settling in at the call centre. And Buck says, well, she's a Buckley. She's practically running the place. And Chim and Hen just look at each other and then leave.
Yeah, immediately just leave. And Buck's like, what? It's like, it's her, like, first or second day, let's mention. Like,
Yes.
like, I'm pretty sure she's had her intro shift, and then this is her first actual shift. So I'm pretty sure this is, like, her second day.
Yeah.
Practically running the place.
Yeah, practically running the place.
practically running, definitely. She's trying to keep up with her dispatch mentor, who I don't think we actually get his name in this episode.
We
but
don't.
Just for the
I was
sake,
waiting for it, and I was like, oh, we don't find it out.
This is Josh.
It's
just for the
Josh.
ease of talking about him through the episode. This is Josh, everybody. Hi, Josh. He is going to be mentoring Maddie for this shift. And he is hilarious because he just does not let her get a word in edgewise. He tells her that she is going to shadow him, and how it works is he talks, she listens, and hopefully she will learn something about being a dispatcher. If she got any questions, she has to save them for after his state-mandated 10-minute break, which will be in 3 hours and 12 minutes.
Not that he's counting.
Oh, he's very much counting. Maddie's got this giant notebook at this stage, and she's frantically writing everything down.
Yeah, everything.
As if Josh is delivering her the gospel of being a dispatcher.
Then like they sit down at the desk, and he goes, first thing, everybody lies. And I was like, that's literally just out of house. And then he goes, Dr. Gregory House was right. And I'm like, okay, good. It's literally out of house.
But then Maddie says, who's Dr. House?
Yeah.
And I wasn't sure, was she like trying to poke fun at Josh, or is this like a Buckley family trait that they have no idea
They just don't
about
know
pop
anything
culture
about
references?
pop culture. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, so he doesn't know, she doesn't know who Dr. House is. Josh also, like, when he's talking about, like, how everybody lies, he's like, you know, many people are so panicked in the moment they think they're telling the truth, but others are lying on purpose. Like, I just slipped and fell on that cucumber.
I had no idea that would happen.
And, like, Maddie looks very briefly concerned. Considering she used to be a nurse, I'm sure she knew this already, but...
I'm sure she's seen worse.
I think she was she was more put out with Josh's, like...
the delivery of it? Yeah, he's very just, like, he has not stopped talking.
Yeah, literally
since
just
they
has not
walked
stopped.
into the dispatch room.
Which, like, she's been living with Buck for at least 2 days now, so you'd think she'd be used to, but, you know.
No. So they jump onto a call, and we get a couple of shots of Josh getting calls. And what I love about this is that he's incredibly professional on the phone with the people calling in, but then he will mute the call to make snarky comments to Maddie, like doing this running commentary. Like, a guy will call who he has a knife impaled in his hand, and he asks Josh, should I take it out? And Josh is like, no, don't take it out. Then he mutes the call and leans over to Maddie and says, you'd think after 14 years of Grey's Anatomy, people would know this stuff. And then goes back to the call as if nothing has happened.
That cracked me up so much because I regularly ask if this is the same universe as Grey's Anatomy, because the whole city falls apart and then 2 days later it's fine again.
Apparently not. Although I will say that I've had that conversation with my kids about, if you have been impaled with something, do not pull it out, leave it in. I don't care where it is. You leave it in, and you get a professional to take it out for you. They kind of looked at me a little bit strange, and I'm like, just don't pull it out.
Just don't stab
like,
yourself.
But what if it's a splinter? I don't care, leave it in. Get someone else to pull it out for you.
Yeah.
Anyway, so Josh does a couple of calls, then he turns to Maddie and says, so, questions? And Maddie is like, okay, yes, I have a million questions. He goes, great, then it's your turn.
Yeah, no good, your turn.
And so this is apparently the see one, do one, teach one method of training, and they're in the middle part. She's seen one, she's now going to do one.
Yeah, chuck in the deep end.
That's it.
And she answers the phone, and the caller says he can't breathe. He's outside a sushi restaurant. And so Maddie goes through her little checklist, and she asks, you know, questions about, sounds like he's having an allergic reaction, and can he elevate his legs? And the guy says no, but Josh just like takes over, like pushes her out of the way, and asks if he's in his car, and he says yeah. And so he, you know, sends the paramedics after him, and he tells Maddie that she was too busy looking at her notes to listen to hear that the guy was in a car, and the paramedics wouldn't know where to look for him.
I love the way he does that, though, because he turns to Maddie and he seems so genuine, and he's like, can I see that? And points at her notebook. And so she hands it over. He's like, great, thanks. Picks up the waste paper bin from under their desk and just drops the notebook straight into it.
Yeah.
And then the face just goes cold.
Josh
Yeah,
is
like,
so
come
sassy.
on.
I love him so much.
It was like she knew that he was outside a sushi restaurant because that's what he said, where he said his location was. So, like, I don't know if he needed. I guess all the detail they can get is what they need for the paramedics to find him. But like,
I think the problem would have been that the paramedics would have shown up to the sushi restaurant and not seen their victim. And who knows how many cars are parked in the parking lot outside the front. Would they have had enough time to search each and every car to find it? Whereas with Josh's call, they've known to go to that sushi restaurant and go straight to that specific make and model of a car to find the guy.
That's it. You want to get it as easy as possible for the first responders.
Yeah. So, like, Maddie's got the medical know-how down. She just needs to learn the logistics of getting your first responders there as quickly as possible.
And learn how to listen to the context clues.
Yeah.
So then we get Damn It by Blink-182 playing, because apparently we're in the 90s.
Which the 911 wiki told me was possibly intentional because this song also played in a movie that Jennifer Love Hewitt was in the 90s. But I think that this song was so ubiquitous that you could say that about any actor.
Literally, this movie, this song has been in everything. So, like, I'm not mad. I love the song. But it's just funny because I'm like, what year is this? So we
went back 2 hours and 2 decades.
Yeah, like 2 hours before, and then it's like 20 years before. I'm like, oh, okay, yeah, cool. So there's a police chase happening down some like suburban streets. I'm fairly sure I was down that street in GTA. They're chasing like a sports car.
It's a shiny red. I think it's a Chevy.
Probably. I didn't pay that much attention. But the guy who jumps out of the car has, like, this bright pink hair, which is super conspicuous.
Mm-hmm.
So he's, like, jumping fences and, sprinting through. He also looks quite young.
This is hilarious because he's doing parkour style across everybody's front garden.
Yeah. Like, there's people watching in their house, like, out in their front.
They've got their phones out.
Yeah.
And the cops are just sprinting up the sidewalk next to him.
Yeah. And then he jumps this, like, really tall fence, and they're like, oh, it's too much effort.
Yep. And then he gets away, he gets on a bus and goes somewhere else. But when he gets home, guess who's waiting for him? Athena is parked out the front of his house, leaning against the car. And she says that if you want to do, steal cars, you should probably get a new haircut.
Yeah, you might want to consider a less memorable hair colour.
Yeah. And this is the third time I've had to arrest you this year.
But that hair is his signature.
Yeah, all badasses have a signature. So I also didn't realise until I read the wiki was that this kid is actually a main character, like the actor ends up as a main character on 911 Lone Star.
Oh.
And the character he plays on Lone Star is Cannon the cousin.
Yeah. So you've seen more of Lone Star than I have, so you'll remember this guy's name in Lone Star.
Yeah, Mateo, he's in Lone Star.
Mateo, okay. Yeah. So, canonically, there is a crossover between 911 and 911 Lone Star. And Mateo, when meeting the 118 for the first time, does that thing where he assumes that if you're from a city, you know everybody in that city, and says, oh, you're from Los Angeles, do you know my cousin Marvin? Referring to this character.
Oh,
yeah.
There you go.
So that's a nice little kind of in-joke. Yeah.
Well,
anyway, back to Marvin.
Marvin, who's getting all his stealing done before he turns 18.
Which probably would have worked for him, except he's now Grand Theft Auto, evading police. That's not kiddie crimes anymore. He's going to grown up court. There's going to be jail time involved.
He's going to big boy jail.
Yeah. Which he seems a bit concerned about. But he's like, I'm not going to make it to jail because my mum's going to kill me first.
Yeah.
And Athena's like, I wouldn't blame her, boy.
So Athena has him in the back of her car, and we like drives onto the freeway, and we catch up with the end of last episode, where Athena gets out like her mints, and then the ground starts shaking, so she throws them everywhere as the earthquake starts.
We get a few more details with this perspective, though, because we can see the freeway cracking in front of Athena's car as she's driving along.
Yeah, and we hear Marvin, like, screaming in the back, basically.
Yeah.
Which he probably was in the last episode, but they had Aretha Franklin up so loud that we didn't hear any of it.
That's right, yeah.
And now not only does the earthquake hit for Athena, but it hits for everyone. So we see that the 118 firehouse, the lights are swinging as the earthquake hits. And we also see that it's hitting the 911 dispatch headquarters.
Yeah.
The firehouse, like, scene is really cool, the way they do it.
Yes.
Like, Chim immediately is like, it's at least a 6. Hen thinks it's a 7, so Hen was right. But shit's going everywhere. So, like, all the, like, oxygen tanks and the, like, fire extinguishers fall off the wall and start going everywhere. So there's, like, fog everywhere. The camera literally, like, turns around. So it's all super chaotic. The trucks are shaking. Eddie's, like, under one of the fire trucks on one of those,
on a
like,
creeper.
Yeah. And so he just starts, like, rolling across the floor and can't stop. Hen manages to grab him and stops him just as shit, like, falls down from the ceiling. But yeah, the camera's literally, like, on the side and upside down, and it's all super chaotic. Like, it was really hard to keep track of where everyone was.
Yeah.
They do a lot of fancy camera work in this episode to really sort of get across to the audience how chaotic these situations are. It's really interesting, especially later on in the episode.
There's glass smashing everywhere.
Yeah, the entire locker room suddenly, those glass walls that we were admiring Eddie through last week, they're gone, they're shattered.
Yeah. I still don't know why the locker room, like, you'd think you'd want somewhere private to change, but no, let's just make it
we can ogle Eddie as he takes 15 minutes to pull his t-shirt down every morning.
Right, my bad. But it wasn't even glass until Buck joined, and then Bobby's just like,
Ew!
Buck's finally learned how to put on a t-shirt, and now Eddie's learning.
The earthquake calms down, and in the 911 dispatch, it's silent. All the monitors are off and the lights are off, but then they start flicking back on, and Josh kind of looks at Maddie and he says, "Brace for impact," and then all the phones start ringing.
Yep, completely blowing up.
Yeah.
So yeah, time for Maddie to jump in that deep end.
Yeah, and you just hear, like, scattered 911 watch your emergency from everywhere. So the 118 are in the engine, driving down the streets.
Yes.
I'm taking note of that now.
We don't actually see the ladder truck. I know that they use the ladder truck, but we don't see anybody driving it.
We don't see them driving it. We do see it in the background later.
Yes, but nobody's driving it. Everyone's in...
They do climb the ladder at some point.
Yeah, that's it.
Yeah,
so
they use the ladder truck. So
Yeah.
somebody else from the 118 has driven it to the scene, but they're just in the engine truck.
Yeah.
And it's Bobby, someone else is driving, Buck and Eddie, and Random from the 118.
Yeah.
Literally, my notes are like, so they're driving down the streets, buildings have collapsed, power lines are down, and Buck's sitting next to a 118 member we don't know. So the whole thing's in chaos.
I think his name is Taylor.
I think we get it
Because
later.
there's a shot much later on where this guy is bald, and there's a shot later on where there is a bald guy pulling stuff out of the 118 engine truck, and he's got Taylor across the back of his turnout.
Yeah,
so I'm saying this is Taylor.
he's at the ladder truck later too.
Yeah.
So yeah.
So I told you, I'm collecting them all. I'm going to have the full set by the end of the season.
Yeah. Once we get to our fanfic episode.
I was looking at all the randoms going, oh, who's this one? Who's this one? But I didn't see any names. But Eddie is texting or, trying to get through on his phone, but there's no, like, Buck sort of notices and asks him if everything's okay.
Yeah, because they're besties now.
Yeah. Oh, he's so concerned. It's really sweet. But he's wondering who he's trying to get a hold of. And Eddie just sort of looks at him and then he goes, my son.
There's a long moment where
pause.
Eddie considers how he's going to answer Buck.
Yeah.
I feel like Eddie's run the gamut in reactions that he gets to him being a father and people finding out about Christopher, and he's wondering if he's got the capacity, or he's wondering where Buck is going to fall on the spectrum of the responses that he's going to get.
I don't think he expected Buck's reaction at all.
No.
After, like, how cold Buck was last time. Like, he's like, yeah, I'm trying to reach my son. And Buck's immediately like, kid, you got a kid? Let me see the kid. Can I see the kid? I love kids. I love kids.
He's so excited.
Like, give me a kid. Like, Buck is ready to kidnap this child.
Especially when he shows him a photo and says he's 7. And Buck's like, oh,
and again,
he's
he's watching Buck so carefully as he hands over his phone. And Buck's only response is, he's super adorable. I love kids. And you can tell that Buck's immediately passed Eddie's test.
Yeah.
Because he has not made one comment about Christopher. He's not made one comment about Eddie. He's just immediately on board with Chris being adorable.
Yeah, like Chris
is great.
Chris has his crutches on in the photo as well, and there's nothing.
Yeah.
Like, just super adorable, give me the child. Like, I'm planning to kidnap this child. This child will be my stepchild by the end of this episode. Like Buck is trying to stepfather trap himself.
Baby trap himself.
Yeah. But yeah, so Buck's like, I love kids, and Eddie just goes, yeah, I love this one. Which, like, but we do find out that Eddie's all Chris has. The mother's not in the picture.
Interesting. I feel like there's
more
to
so we
this
learn
one.
a little bit more. Yeah. Buck immediately starts to reassure that, like, Christopher's at school, he's going to be fine, and then they pull up to the hotel.
And I love that Bobby's first reaction is to cross himself before he gets out of the truck.
Yeah, because, like, holy shit.
Yeah.
Yeah, I feel
Jim
like
and Hen have beat them there.
all the emergency services and, like, the triage and all that stuff is very close to the building. Like, I feel like maybe they should be a little further away.
Yeah, because, like, the building's going to come down. What are they doing?
Collapse. Yeah. But anyway.
I mean, I guess if you look at that screenshot of where all the buildings are in relation and how, like, there doesn't seem to be a lot of free space for them to set up, but you are correct, it does seem to be rather close.
I mean, they get out of the truck and they look up and the building is above them.
It's right there.
It's right there, yeah.
Yeah.
Like, if it collapses, they're all going to get
smashed.
Even if they're not underneath it.
Yeah.
So, yeah, the parents that we saw from the open are being escorted out, and they're screaming and trying to get back inside because their daughter's inside still. They say her name's Kat, and Hen, like, just stares at them the whole time. So Hen already has an interest in this kid.
Yep.
Bobby says he hasn't been able to get a hold of Athena. Hen hasn't been able to get a hold of Karen or Denny. The cell phone towers are they're overloaded, they're stuffed. So they go and find the incident commander, who gives them a rundown. So they were between check-out and check-in when the earthquake hit, so they were fairly light on guests. Most of the guests have made contact with them, and evac operations are after the way. Most of the staff have also made it out, but it's really chaotic. And the building pancaked at an angle was the phrase that they used, because there was a fault in the underground parking structure. Mm-hmm. So
I pretty much understood none of that.
So basically, building is sideways.
I got the building was sideways, but the whole she's walking and talking and
yeah. Underground parking structure cracked, and the building fell into it, but not all the way into it. But basically it's
Yeah, and the steel is keeping it upright.
yeah, like it's it's not in a good position, and one good aftershock and the whole thing will come down. This is where we find out that the earthquake was a 7.1 magnitude, which is the largest in SoCal in 20 years. And Chim says the last one was in Joshua Tree, which I had no idea what it was. So apparently it's a national park that's outside Palm Springs, so it's much more inland.
Yeah, it's up in the mountains.
Ken also references the Northridge earthquake, which was in 1994, and that was a 6.7 on the Richter scale. And as of the 90s, that was the deadliest earthquake that Los Angeles had seen, or California had seen.
Interestingly, there was literally today an earthquake in, like, off the coast of the Philippines today that was a 7.1. I'm like, oh, the timing.
Yep. Excellent timing.
But it was off the coast, so I don't think it was as
there might have been a
catastrophic.
bit of a tsunami or something, which is a bit of a worry for those island nations. They're very densely populated and close to the coast.
Yeah, it did say there wasn't a tsunami warning, but so I think it was just like off the coast and like they probably only felt a little bit, but yeah, it was just interesting that it was also a 7.1
as we were watching this.
Yeah. Yeah, so they've put in a request for heavy rescue, but they're on their way to a freeway collapse, which obviously we already know about, but the 118 having no access to cell service has no idea that Athena's in.
Yeah, and Buck says that he thought a high-rise was supposed to be the safest place to be when an earthquake hits, and they do a little bit of exposition about that was when they were talking about how it's the strongest in SoCal in 20 years, blah, blah, blah. So we get all that explanation.
But the answer was a high-rise is the safest place unless you literally build the high-rise on top of a fault line.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then, like, all bets are off.
And apparently you have dodgy, like, car park
underground structures.
Yeah. So Bobby turns to the others and he says, look, you don't have to go into that building. I won't force you to do that, but, you know.
Yeah, I can't force you to, and I won't judge them if you decide not to go in.
Yeah, but they all say that they're going to do what they can, so in they go.
It's actually really nice, so Chim, like, immediately looks at Hen and goes, you know, you've got a kid, and Hen says that she would hope that whoever's job it was to save him was willing to do it. And Eddie immediately, like, Chim doesn't know yet that Eddie has a kid, but Eddie immediately goes, where do you want us?
Yeah. And they get led over to the leaning tower of the hotel, the Palm Hotel, to observe a gross sleazy guy being pinned to the window like Han Solo in Carbonite, from up on the 11th floor, which is slightly lower than it used to be about an hour ago.
Eddie and Buck's planning is super cute too. They're like finishing each other's thoughts.
It's very much, are you thinking what I'm thinking, B1? I think I am, B2.
So they make
that's
a plan.
Bananas in Pajamas for any of the Americans who are listening.
Oh yeah, that's Australian, isn't it?
Yeah.
I think they do get bananas in pajamas over there.
They're all about Bluey these days anyway.
Yes. Yeah. Don't look up bananas in pajamas or you might have nightmares because they're kind of freaky. But anyway.
So they're gonna ladder up to the 4th floor. So it's floor 11, which we found out earlier in the episode. Mm-hmm. So Buck and Eddie make a plan to ladder up to the 4th floor and then climb the rest of the way up to the 11th to smash the
But then I love that
time.
They're making this plan with each other, and it's only afterwards that they go, oh, we should probably check, is this okay,
they
boss?
just look over at Bobby and he goes, off you go.
Yeah, okay, bye. Like,
have fun, boys.
Enjoy the hotel room, boys. Because Bobby is the number one buddy shipper.
He so is.
So they climb up the ladder. It's a really big ladder. They smash the window to gain access to inside, and Buck's just non-stop, like, so last time there was an earthquake, they reinforced all the schools, and like there's all this and that, and it's the safest place that it's safest place you can be now. And Eddie's like, I thought you said a high-rise was the safest place.
Yeah, and look at this one.
But it's really cute that Buck's just like, Chris is going to be fine. Like, he just found out about the existence of this kid, and he's just like, nope, it's my duty to protect him and to reassure Eddie that he's going to be fine.
But it is somewhat ironic that Buck is spending all this time telling Eddie that schools are the safest place that Chris could be, and yet after the commercial break we cut to Michael and May racing to Harry's school, which has been destroyed. Like, why is Harry's school, why wasn't where did the FEMA money go for that one?
It wasn't reinforced. Oh dear. But they find him in the park, which is, I guess, is the evacuation point.
I think it's the playground of the school.
Yeah, because they said round by the gymnasium, so I think it must be play equipment out by the gym. And May and Michael are absolutely frantic because they can't reach Athena, so they don't know if she's okay. They've got word that, Harry's school is destroyed. They need to come pick him up. Harry's sitting on the playground with his phone or his...
It looks like a
handheld
DS
game device.
Thing, yeah.
And he thinks it's super awesome because he doesn't have to go back to school for a month.
Yeah, he's super upbeat. Doesn't care.
No.
So Michael does level with him and say it's not awesome. A lot of people got hurt. And then they try Athena again and can't get her. And Harry's like, where's Mum? And Michael's like, she's working.
And then we cut to Athena working, which was a nice little transition, a little bit clunky, but I'll give it to him.
Yeah, we go, school's the safest place to a destroyed school. And then Mum's working to Mum working.
Mum being working. And she's very much working. She's taken control. She is the incident commander of the freeway overpass. And she is telling all of the drivers, she was up on the overpass. She's now kind of under on the underpass, I guess you would call it.
Yeah, I don't know how she got down there because she got her car down there too, but...
Oh yeah,
I'm assuming she backed up and drove it down, but
down
again, this is like, don't think about it too hard or you're not gonna be able to get through it. But yeah, she's telling everyone, if you can drive, get your vehicles off to the side of the road. I do love the way that Angela Bassett says that it's vehicles.
Vehicles?
Yeah.
You get your vehicles off to the side to clear a way for the emergency vehicles.
They're also trying to move people away from underneath the overpass because they're worried that the rest of it's going to come down. Mm-hmm. There's some sort of construction worker helping her as well, so there was construction going on.
There's always, every single time they have anything to do with the 710 in 911, there's always a construction crew nearby.
I just assume it's like our big freeway in Melbourne in that there's always construction going on.
Really?
Yeah, literally the Monash freeway. It's supposed to be 100, but it's usually 80 because there's some sort of roadwork going on. What are they doing? Who knows? Don't know. But they've been doing it for about 20 years now and it still hasn't finished. So
yes, our road up to the Sunshine Coast is the same.
Yeah.
Always roadworks.
Always roadworks. Meanwhile, I think Tasmania just doesn't have any roads. So
no, we just have to dodge around the kangaroos.
Right.
We're up to Athena is searching all of the vehicles under the collapsed part of the overpass, the vehicles, and she finds Dean, who is trapped underneath his overturned car.
Where's Sam?
He's not there.
Why isn't he driving Baby? Oh, this is season 7. Right, never mind. Got it.
Dean's freaking out a little bit because he's trapped inside the car, and Athena tells him to enhance his calm, which is the most batshit weird phrase I've ever heard. And I thought I was mishearing it, but no, the transcript says enhance your calm.
Enhance your calm, Dean.
Yep.
Okay.
Yep. I'm like, what?
Yep. So weird.
Weird.
Dean does not enhance his calm. In fact, he starts to double down because now he can smell gas.
Her phone starts ringing. She tries to answer it, but all she can hear is static. There's no reception still. So she's sort of shouting at it, going, Michael, you're breaking up.
She is rummaging in the back of the cruiser for something. I'm assuming she is trying to get some kind of tools that she could use to help lever Dean out of the car. Meanwhile, Marvin's in the back seat yapping at her, saying, you're treating me worse than a dog. You wouldn't leave a dog chained up in the back seat in this situation, would you? And Athena just says, well, a dog would be more helpful at this situation. And that's when she looks back at Dean and his car, which is now alight, and he is screaming because it's getting pretty hot in there.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know how his car just suddenly caught on fire. Like, it wasn't on fire before, and there's been no more aftershocks or anything.
Just don't think.
The car's on fire.
It's
Anyway,
fine.
okay then. She grabs a fire extinguisher from the back of the car, and the construction worker also finds another extinguisher, and they spray them at the car, but it does absolutely nothing, and the fire is still burning. And the construction guy, he says that he thinks an underground gas line must have been ruptured when the car, the earthquake hit, I'm guessing, right? So now
I guess so, yeah.
the fire can't be put out like that.
Apparently the car hit the pavement when it fell down from the overpass, and that ruptured the underground gas line. And the gas is now feeding up through the car. And I'm assuming that there must be sparks or something happening because the car is upside down, and so that's igniting the gas. And he's basically a living Bunsen burner at this point.
Yeah.
And all this time Dean is still just screaming.
Yeah, upside down screaming.
I am
I
not
don't blame
surprised.
him.
Yeah, I would be.
So now we come to Ellen's favourite part of the episode.
Oh, God. I'm just watching this going, what?
They set it up for us. What happens?
The extinguisher's not working, so they need to find some other way to cool the fire down. So she sees a cement truck, and apparently the construction dude's friend has the keys, but he's too far away. But Athena happens to have someone who knows how to steal cars in her car. So
Yeah, how
Convenient that.
How convenient is
so
that?
she gives Marvin the opportunity to be a hero and asks him if he can hotwire the cement truck. So as she says to him, like, if you take off, like, I'm going to rain the fire of hell down on you. Like, you need to help me with this. Like, let's do it. And he's like, okay. So
he starts listing like the specs of the cement truck too, which is amusing.
Yeah, I don't know. He's been playing way too much real life GTA,
Yeah.
and he gets some tools from a toolbox nearby. I don't know why there are tools just lying around, but there are.
Because it's a construction site.
Yeah, because it's a construction site.
Okay. Like, obviously I was too busy going, what the hell is he doing with this cement truck? The fire's getting bigger, and the cement truck, he's trying to hotwire it, and it's all a bit tense. And eventually he brings the truck over, and they like pour cement onto the top of this car. And I'm like, this is like, the road is unstable. Like, I know they're underneath the overpass that collapsed. They're not, I mean, there has just been an earthquake. Like, we don't know what's going on with the road. He's pouring concrete onto a car that is on top of a guy.
Yeah.
The whole thing is just like, I couldn't wrap my head around
Yeah.
it. But anyway, it works. So
Somehow, yeah.
I guess it's okay. The fire goes out, and there's a chopper flying overhead. So
And once again, somebody does something batshit insane, and mere seconds later, help is
help
on the
is
way.
there. Like, the heavy lifting
Yeah.
equipment arrives, and they can extract people from the car wreckage or whatever. So
The paramedics that come running over, I imagine they just get to the car and they're like, what the
Yeah,
fuck is going on
why
here?
is there a load of concrete on top of this? Like wet concrete on top of this car?
Like, where did this come from and how?
Anyway, so Marvin, that's his name, right? Marvin. I keep thinking of like Marvin the Martian. I'm like, that's not his name.
Marvin the Martian. Yeah.
Marvin says, okay, so I can go now? And he's like, no, you're going to jail, boy. Like, you think you're getting away with this? You had to go up being the hero, but you're still going to pay for all the cars that you stole. So
I do love her line, which was that good deeds may get you into heaven, but the law is the law, honey. And once I put you in the back of my squad car, there's no getting out.
Yeah.
Yeah, but thank you for helping me and, helping me save that guy. That was really sweet of you. And I might write a letter to the judge, see if I can get you some leniency.
Yeah.
But
you're still getting tried.
Yeah. So she like cuffs him again and throws him in the back of the car.
Yeah, and he looks so sad. It was good to be a hero for just a few minutes.
So back to the Hotel California.
This is where it starts to get really tense.
Yeah. So Bobby and Hen and Chim are exploring the ruins to see if they can find anybody that needs help. Hen does see a pair of feet sticking out from under the rubble, but she can't find a pulse, so that gets marked with a red X.
I do just want to mention, because I didn't find out till after I watched the episode, the deceased person that they checked the pulse of, that snooty lady.
Yeah,
It was her feet?
I wondered if it was her.
I thought it was.
Yeah, it's snooty, gluten-free lady.
I think I made in my notes a reference that it was very Wicked Witch of the West imagery.
Yeah.
Like the hotel crashing down and just her feet sticking out, but then I wasn't 100% sure if it was that character, so I wasn't going to bring it up. But
definitely her.
We do get in from this point forwards with a lot of the action sequences is they put, it looks like, body cams on the actors, so we get to see what's happening from their point of views, like their hands, the camera shaking as they're running around, just to like up the tension of the scene.
Yep.
So that's a very interesting technique that they put in. I don't think it's like issued body cams. They're not at that stage yet, but it's just like hey Peter, we're just going to strap a GoPro to your chest while you do this scene, and we'll use the footage later.
Yeah, the other thing that made it really effective, not so much for the tension, but for the making you feel unsettled and weird about the whole thing, is that how the set is so, like, obviously the building is on an angle, but the whole weirdness of especially Eddie and Buck like making their way down a corridor that is on a huge angle, and like even when they like break the glass of the window and the glass falls in a way that you wouldn't expect because the window is on such a huge angle, like it's really unsettling. And I guess that's part of the, like what I was saying last week about how you expect the ground to be there all the time, and when it's not where you expect it to be, then that's really off-putting. It's really it makes it a bit more scary. But I guess when they're underneath the building, like when the others are underneath trying to save the people who are trapped down there, you don't get quite as much of a sense. Like, even though it must be, the building has fallen into the parking garage on an angle, so even the lower floors must be on an angle too, right?
No, I think that they've just gone down. So they've just dropped and everything's kind of pancaking and piling up on top. It's just that section of the tower that's tipping sideways. So
yeah, okay.
Only Buck and Eddie have to worry about everything being at an angle and gravity pulling them down. Everyone else just has to worry about gravity pulling the roof, the ceiling down over their heads.
Yeah. Like everything above them's super unstable, but
yes. We are with Bobby and Chim and Hen, and they are searching through the wreckage, and they are looking for Pickens and the coach.
Yeah, so Hen's still looking for the little girl Cat that she heard about earlier, and they pass someone from the 125 who's escorting out a hotel staff member, and says that there's a kid 50 feet back, and it's a young African-American kid, and they need a paramedic.
Yeah, Hen hears kid and she thinks that it's Cat, but it's not. It's Pickens, who has been pinned by a giant concrete beam that's come down onto his leg.
And it's really like, so they have to climb across the bar of the hotel to get there.
I thought that was kind of cool because the floor is out, but the concrete, I think it's like a concrete pillar or something, is made this little bridge. They've got to like shuffle their way across this bridge to get to where Jeff and Pickens
so
are.
It's really
Jeff
like,
and the coach are.
Yeah, it's really like, it gives them that like sense of being isolated because they have to cross the bar to get in and out. So like once they're there, like it's a pain to get back out again.
Yep.
But yeah, so like they introduce themselves. Jeff is the kid and he has his leg trapped under a whole bunch of debris, and the second that they tried to touch, it's a beam that Jeff's trapped under, and as soon as they started trying to touch it, the whole thing started shifting. So they're like, yeah, we're not really willing to touch it. So the coach is being really supportive, but Bobby is like, you need to go. We have to focus everything we've got just on Jeff. And like the coach argues a bit and is like, this kid's a son to me, I'm in charge of him.
Yeah, the coach was very much giving off he was going to be the pushy, overbearing parent, going to be questioning everything that Bobby said. He was going to be pushing Bobby to make decisions he didn't want to make, and Bobby sensed this within a second, just like, okay, dude, you are out of here. He puts it in a nice way. It's like, we can't focus on Jeff if we're worrying about you. So if you want what's best for him, you need to get out.
Yeah, and the coach actually
but
goes.
you got to get out.
Yeah. Like, Jeff's like, no, I'm okay. Like, it's fine, you can go. And the coach is like, okay, like, if you're sure. And he goes.
Yeah.
So they have a look and see sort of what's going on with it. And Bobby explains to Jeff that they have two ways of doing this. Option A is that they cut him free from his leg.
Yeah, Jeff was like, free from what? Free from my leg?
Jeff, who, like, so again, this is the kid who has scouts coming to see him play, like, when they get back, which obviously won't be happening now.
I don't think we mentioned earlier, but, like, his basketball team had lost. They were out of the champions. But apparently Jeff is the best player on the team, and he has a lot of college scouts who are after him. He's, you know, heading for a full ride scholarship to one of the Division 1 schools.
Yeah, pretty much the school of his choice.
Bright NBA future ahead of him. So for him to have a crushed leg, possibly having an amputated leg, that's a big deal for him.
Yeah, so like crushed leg at least has it has a chance. Amputated leg, there's no chance. Like, you don't, like, the leg's not there to even try and rehab anymore.
But I think the choice that Bobby gave him is choice number one, you get out of here alive.
Yeah.
No questions asked. You're just going to be, like, down a leg.
Yeah. And
the other option
everyone's
is...
going to love you regardless. Like, your family's going to love you regardless.
Yeah.
Your girlfriend's going to love you regardless. You're just down
Your
a
other
leg.
option is we try and save your leg. We try and get you out of here with both legs. But if we try and move you and this whole thing starts coming down, I'm getting my team out of here and we're going to survive. You probably won't.
Yeah. Like,
so
Jeff
do you want to live with one leg or do you want to die with two legs?
Yeah. So the second way is to get airbags to lift up the debris. But yeah, that could mean that the entire ceiling collapses. And Jeff says he doesn't think he could live with himself if he didn't at least try to save his leg. And so Bobby's like, cool, yep, we're committed, we're doing option B. Yeah, it's definitely a really shit choice.
Yeah.
But yeah, like, it would be hard to be like, yeah, I didn't even try. So I get the decision that he's making. Even if he is a teenager, and they probably shouldn't put that decision on him.
Yeah, well, I mean, they've got a very limited amount of time in which to make it as well. So it was like, tell us which way you want this to go. And yeah, they get the airbags and stuff and start trying to save him.
So we go back to the dispatch centre. Maddie's in the break room and they've got the news on, and it's her and like the other newbies. And the news is all bright and cheery and discussing, like, so the hotel's on the news and they're saying how one aftershock could bring the whole thing down. And they're like, yeah, so there's all these first responders inside and, you know, if the whole thing goes down, it'll trap them. And we all remember how many died in 9/11. And Maddie's just standing there like, yep, cool. It then zooms in on the 118 ladder truck.
Yeah.
Just to really drive home that, yes, the 118 is there. And, like, Maddie is standing there and she's just silently crying. She's got tears just rolling down her cheeks as she's watching.
Because, like, I think, like, obviously she knew that Buck was a firefighter. But this is her first time, like, actually seeing, like, the danger that he puts himself in.
Yeah.
Yes.
Like, she wasn't there for the aeroplane crash. Like, and she wasn't even getting his calls and letters. So this is the first time that she's seen her baby brother
Yeah.
literally putting himself in danger.
Mm-hmm.
And she hasn't heard from him, so she has no idea if he's okay. But she doesn't have time to think about it because Josh comes up, muttering to himself, like, so much for a training cruise, and tells all the newbies that their training is now done. They've had all the training that they're going to get for today. The rest of it is going to be a crash course. They're going to start taking calls. Their one job is to keep the phone lines clear for the real emergencies. They are to roll the calls through. They are to handle the cranks. They are to handle the people who are calling. Like, I think I felt an earthquake.
Yeah, the nuisance calls, they call them. So, like...
To get them off the line. If you actually do get an emergency, if you think you can help, try. Otherwise, just send it up the chain to him and the other fully qualified dispatchers.
Yeah, but they're playing triage.
Pretty much, yeah. Maddie is still preoccupied by the fact that Buck is in a hotel that could possibly be coming down at any second. And she goes up to Josh and she's like, I think my brother is in that hotel. And he's like, we all have people out there doing dangerous things. We just have to do our jobs.
And what sort of capitalist...
Damn, Josh.
Suck it up, sunshine.
His exact words are,
much,
the best
yeah.
thing we can do for them right now is our job.
Yeah.
And it's like, excuse me?
It's harsh.
Anyway, so we go back to Buck and his boyfriend climbing the Leaning Tower of LA.
Yes.
Eddie, like, they've apparently just got in again, even though we just saw them get in. Eddie mentions that it's only 6 flights, it's not exactly Everest, and Buck goes, yeah, except Everest might not tip over and crush you like a bug. And it's like, well...
Sometimes it
Yes.
does.
Sometimes it does. Like, that's what, like, avalanches are.
Yeah.
And at exactly that point, another aftershock hits and the building rumbles, flinging Buck into a wall.
Yeah.
He gets maybe 10 seconds and Eddie's like, you good? All right, let's keep going.
Yeah.
He's just like, what the fuck, dude?
So we go back to Bobby and the sports ball kid. There's also rebar everywhere. I'm sure Chim was having some
Flashbacks.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So they're like getting the airbag into position and the kid's like pumping himself up with the team motto. I can't remember if we mentioned this earlier.
Oh, this
No.
stupid motto.
It's so cheesy.
So the team motto is Heart of a Champion. And it's like, what sort of motto is that?
Yeah.
I think it's like, we got the heart of a champion. We might not have the skills of a champion.
we
We
suck,
don't have
but
the
we've got
wings
the
of a
heart of a
champion,
champion.
but we got the heart of a champion. Like, we suck, but we got heart.
Where did they get the heart from? Whose heart did they... Anyway.
We might not have
so
the legs of a champion in a moment.
Ouch. So they start inflating the airbag. And they're trying to pump him up too. Like Chim's like, yeah, heart of a champion. Don't know what we're talking about, but yeah, you got this.
Come on, champ. Come on.
Yeah.
It's very much that, yeah.
So they like it takes a couple tries, but they get him out. Like they manage to pull him across. They get him onto the backboard, slide him across the bar that they all had to climb across, and he's free. Yay. And I just wanted to mention that the song that's playing is called Under Pressure. I'm like, that was last week. We already did that.
Yes, but now it's Jeff's leg under pressure, so it's still
How many songs
still
about pressure are
applicable.
there?
Apparently,
quite a few.
all of them are in 911.
Yeah.
So Chim follows Jeff across the little bar. Hen goes next, but she stops because as she's crawling across, her eye catches on something, and she reaches into the cavity of the debris that is underneath the bridge that she's crawling across, and pulls out a shoe. A small, child-sized, pinky purpley, glittery shoe.
Yep.
And she starts screaming for Kat and starts shining her torch down into the hole below to see if she can see the little girl.
Yeah. So then we go to Eddie.
We go back to the Bobbsey twins.
They finally reach the floor that they need. Took almost as long as Eddie putting on his t-shirt. And
I mean, to be fair, it's 6 flights, but the stairs are at an angle.
yeah,
so...
it's 6 flights sideways.
I mean, yeah, I cut him a little slack, but yeah, they get there in the end. They're also apparently tools, because apparently Buck's been hauling a circular saw up with him the entire time.
which is also what took him so long. So this is where we find out, like, the subtitles say that the sleazy guy's name's Harlow, but he doesn't deserve a name, so we're just going to call him Sleaze.
Just going to keep, sleazy gross pervert dude.
So they open the door and, like, the room, they have to go literally down into the room. So, like, they start, like, getting ropes already, tell them to sit tight. They sort of assess the situation. You can see Ali holding onto a pillar still, and Sleaze is, like, pushed against the window, and he immediately goes, "Oh, in this case, women and children first may not apply. No offense." And
Ali shoots back, like, no offense, everything about you is offensive. And Buck's trying to, like, diffuse the situation. He's like, "Oh, first date?"
yeah.
Ew, no.
So she sort of explains the situation about how, like, that's her boss, and he has a wife and, like, 4 or 5 kids, I think it was.
5 kids.
5 kids.
Yeah.
But that didn't stop him from inviting her into the shower with him.
Yeah, she just tells them all about it.
And, like, Buck and Eddie shame him a little bit, but nowhere near enough, in my opinion. Like, I get that they're trying to do a job, but Hen would have absolutely pushed him through the window.
Yeah.
Like, oh, At least... the glass what a oh, no. Didn't save him. All right, Ali, let's go get drinks. So, yeah, the whole time, like, the glass is, like, cracking ominously.
And
then we go back down to the street.
Does say, like, haven't you been watching the news lately? I'm like, wow, Buck knows something about what's going on in the world.
Yeah, go Buck. Only probably because he has had it thrown in his face a couple of times from some of the women that he's hooked up with.
I was going to say Hen told him, but yeah.
I'm pretty sure he's said something or done something inappropriate, and he has been schooled on the Me Too movement, so he knows all about it.
Yeah, so we go back down to the street, and the parents of Kat are still, like, waiting around, and they see Jeff come out and recognize him, and they're like, okay, he was on the same floor, let's ask if anyone saw Kat. So they're panicking, they're explaining what she was wearing, and that's when they confirm that
they want to ask Jeff. This kid is strapped to a backboard. He's on
I thought they were going to ask
gurney.
him.
He's pumped full of morphine, and they're like, let's ask him if he's seen our child. I get that you're panicking, but this is not the correct time nor place.
Whoever the paramedic who is, taking him out, just when they come up to him and start asking questions, he just gives him this, like, disgusted look, like, go away. But there is a nice firefighter person who, tries to calm them down a little bit, asks what she's wearing and, the details. So when we go back inside, Bobby says, yes, that is her shoe.
Yeah, there's a nice little transition where they're like, explained, like, tell me what Kat was wearing. And he very specifically asks, what colour are her shoes? And you get Mum saying they're pink. You've got Dad immediately saying at the same time that they're purple. Dad goes, okay, they're pinky purple. And then we cut to Hen holding a pinky purpley shoe in her hand.
Yeah, it's literally pink on one side, purple on the other. It's great.
Yeah. So that's when we get the firefighter has obviously radioed through to Bobby and gone, yeah, that's the shoe that we're looking for.
Yeah.
I will give the writers kudos for this episode with their transitions, the way they're sort of linking all the scenes together. They're doing it quite nicely.
Yeah, it's good, and it, like,
not always in the way that I would have thought, but
this
like,
part as well is
cool.
quite chaotic. Like, it cuts back and forth a lot, so it's like you can feel
it's gradually
something's
getting
about to happen. It's
more,
building
more and more tense. Yeah.
Yeah. So
Yes.
like, we're back up to the hotel room, and the glass is cracking a lot under the sleazy guy. They've secured Ali, and like they've got a rope to her, and they're telling sleazy guy not to talk or breathe too much, and of course he cannot shut up. Back downstairs, they've got thermal cams now to try and find Kat, but haven't found anything yet. And then we go back up where sleazy guy keeps talking, even though he's been told several times to stop even breathing. And Eddie's just got down to him. So Buck's towards the door with a rope, like holding it. Ali's about halfway down the room, also holding the rope.
I think Buck is being like the belay point.
Yeah, Buck's the anchor at the moment.
Yeah, I don't know how they've secured it behind Buck, but then Eddie is tied to Buck, and then Ali is also tied with another rope to Buck.
Yeah.
So he's holding everybody up at this point.
And Eddie's just about to tie a rope around the sleazy guy when an aftershock hits. And it's a big one.
Yeah.
And so all of the glass just shatters into teeny tiny little pieces, and sleazy guy goes plummeting down, although he seems to go forwards quite a bit as well. It doesn't appear to go straight down.
Yeah, and he doesn't seem to land on anybody down there or any of the tents that are down there.
Because like Eddie reaches for him, so we do get a shot of what Eddie sees, which is like the guy face down on the footpath, like quite a distance from where he fell.
Yeah.
And then all of the furniture that was behind him has miraculously landed next to him, not on top of him, so that we can get a nice clear shot of his body on the footpath. Very, very considerate.
Eddie and Buck also look sadder than they should, but I guess they didn't know him too well.
I was too busy cheering to notice any of that.
Yeah.
I just think they don't like losing anybody on a call.
Yeah. We also go back down to Hen, Bobby, and Chim, and they're struggling to get to safety as like the roof's caving in and the shock's happening. And while this is all happening, Hen falls down a large hole in the floor and vanishes.
Yeah.
And then
Bobby and Chim are calling for her. But
and she's still screaming for Kat. She is not worried about her own safety. She's not worried about anybody else. She just feels the room shaking, and she's worried about that kid that's still buried somewhere under all the rubble. Mm-hmm. God bless Hen.
So then Ali clearly wasn't secured very well to the rope because she goes toppling past Eddie, and then like grabs onto the window ledge. So she's holding, like falling out the window. Eddie's grabbing her with both hands. Buck's at the doorway holding them both with a rope.
Yeah, he's literally like he's got his feet up onto the little mini bar, wet bar area of the room. His entire body weight leaning back, holding the two of them up. Because he's had Eddie's weight and now he's got Ali's weight on top as well.
Yeah. And that's when we go to credits.
Yeah, and this shot when they're like with Eddie's dangling out the window holding her is so effective. And that's the end. I'm just like, what?
Like, you can tell that it's a green screen, but it's done really well.
Yeah.
I couldn't imagine waiting for a whole week to see the next episode.
Yeah, so we forgot to mention that even though Fox at this stage was making a big deal about the fact that it was a 2-parter. It's technically a 3-parter.
Yeah,
It's just that there's a week gap between this episode and the third episode,
that's just mean.
which continues. And then you find out the title of the next episode, which is called Help Is Not Coming.
Oh.
Yep.
You're like, what the hell is that about?
Can't wait to see what I haven't watched the next episode yet, so I'm just like, I will be watching as soon as possible. But yeah, maybe Help's not coming. I don't want to watch the next one. No, this whole the tension in this episode just built up and up, and by the end I'm just sort of like watching through the cracks in my fingers, you know. Like it was,
it does such a good job of building the tension and also just the chaos.
Yeah, and splitting even between like different parts of the city where things are going on. Like it doesn't lose any tension as we switch between all those different scenes. I thought that was great.
like when they're trying to get like Jeff out, like they're in this really small sort of area and it's all dark and there's rubble all around and it's a bit claustrophobic. And then really like the scene in the firehouse with the earthquake because just shit was going down.
Yeah.
So season 2's off to a really, really good start.
It is, yeah. Really, I liked this episode for, not just the emergency itself and the tension, but the production value was brilliant. So yeah.
I think this season premiere really kind of set the bar for all of the rest of the season. Which is why once you see this episode, you can kind of understand why ABC tried to do what it did with its very first season, season 7, which
we'll get into later.
They did not accomplish anywhere near as well as Fox did for season 2, but that is a conversation for a much later time.
It's going to take us a while to get to season 7.
Today actually we also got an air date for season 8, so that's really exciting.
Yeah. I'll have to avoid spoilers again, damn it.
So we have until September to
Yeah,
we're not gonna make it.
We're not gonna make it.
All right, well, tell us about what's happening in season.
Shall I tell you what's going to happen in the all-new episode Help Is Not Coming? Mm-hmm. Surprisingly, the first responders continue to deal with the fallout of the massive earthquake and its deadly aftershocks. Athena tries to keep the peace as Bobby and his team continue to rescue victims from the collapsed high-rise hotel, both under the rubble and high above the ground. And Maddie's first day on the job involves helping a pregnant couple deliver their baby safely.
Oh.
That's an interesting way to summarize Maddie's storyline. Yeah. I don't know that I particularly agree with that, but then again, I'm not the summary writer, so...
I don't want too many spoilers.
No.
I'm intrigued.
Trigger warnings for Help Is Not Coming include threat of looting, questionable cop behaviour, and a pregnant woman at threat.
Cool. Anything else about the episode that we want to say before we wrap up? I'm just keen to know what happens next. But we'll do that, but we'll have to... I'm sorry, listeners, you'll have to wait a whole nother week before we go on with our...
Luckily, Ellen only has to wait a couple days.
I won't have to wait. I'm going to go and watch it. Okay, so we'd love it if you could, listeners, if you get in touch with us and tell us what you thought about this episode. Were you on the edge of your seat like me? You can get in touch with us. All of our contact details are on our website, along with transcripts for our episodes and other information about the podcast. thatwewishshow.com. You can leave us a comment. You can send us an email at contact@thatwewishshow.com. So thank you very much for listening this week, and we will see you next time to discuss the episode Help Is Not Coming. Talk to you then.
Bye.
Bye.
911 is a fictional show, but many of the situations portrayed happen in the real world too. If any of the topics we've discussed in this episode have affected you, please know you're not alone. You can call or text numbers in your country for help. Just Google crisis support in your location to find out the number. If you enjoy our podcast, you can help us out by leaving us a review on Spotify or your preferred listening app, and by sharing our social media posts. Find out more at thatweewooshow.com.
I only have 2 tabs open.
Oh, well, look at you go.
I have 2 I put both of the important tabs in one window on their own. Does that count?
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. I have 11 on one and 3 on the other. And the 3 on the other are just the documents for this episode.
Good Lord, I don't understand how people can do that. It drives me batty too much.
It's because it's all like the job stuff. So I need it there. So when I go back to the, what have I learnt in 12 months? It's all just sitting there.
I have 40 tabs open on one window.
40?
No.
Yeah.
No.
And then on my Wee Woo Show window, I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11.
How?
And then I have a new window that only has 2. But the thing is, I open new tabs and then I just leave them there until I need to come back to them. So yeah.
Yeah.
And my phone
Have you
has
suddenly-
over 100 tabs open on it because that's all it picks. That's my marked for later.
That's why you download them.
Yeah, but when I download them and put them on my Kobo, then they die. Like, that's where they go to die. And I never
That's
look
where
at
they go
them,
to die. Okay.
and I never read them. But if they're in my tabs, at least I will open and scroll through and have a look to see what there is to read.
Yeah, that's my phone tabs. Like, there are way too
Okay.
many to count because I can't put them on mark for later or that's where they'll die forever.
Yes.
And when I went to see Inside Out 2 the other day with my kid, with my daughter, and the anxiety emotion thing came up, and I'm like, oh, I know that one. And I'm like, this is why I have so many tabs open in my brain, and it's fine. It's all fine. Let's talk about this episode, which, by the way, I had to keep pausing this episode because it was freaking me the fuck out.
Really?
I was so nervous for everybody. But anyway, we can
honey.
mention that later. No.
Yeah, this is only season 2.
You think this one was bad?
No, I'm sure it'll get worse. But I was just, it was.
Like, there are children and there are people. And Eddie's got a shirt on.
Their daughter is. There's an asshole with his face
I love that
against the window.
there's children in danger and there's people, but Eddie's wearing a shirt. And that's what's freaking you out.
The horror of Eddie's 8-pack being covered up.
He was very clothed in this episode.
Just disappointing.
Anyway, okay,
honestly.
let's actually start the podcast and then we can do this part.
Okay.